I can barely, get qualified for this single family home. How in the world am I going to qualify for, a 10-unit building?
Should I invest in a single family home, duplex, or triplex?
I always get that question. And my answer is no, don't do it. I'm joking, but most of the time, not always, but most of the time, the operations of the singles and the twosies and the threesies are more time intensive than buying bigger properties like a multifamily that's like 4, 5, 6, 7, even 10, 15, 20. So most people, I'll tell you what happens. So most people operate based on their current circumstances, based on their current comfort level. And so most people can see themselves owning a duplex or a triplex. And so they start looking at prices, right? And they'll see that a triplex, for example, in Ottawa, it's about $800,000. Some of them are even $1 million. Well, it's going to be extremely difficult for you to turn a profit, meaning see cash flow from if you're paying, over, $100,000 or $150,000 or even $200,000 a unit. Not impossible, but extremely difficult. And so what most people don't know or realize is that the higher you go in units, the easier it gets. And the same amount of work that you're going to spend on a single will be the same amount of work that you'll spend on an 8-unit building. Relative. And now let's look at single families. A single is the most expensive piece of real estate you'll ever buy because the prices are, the value of the properties are determined by the emotions of the people, whatever the people are feeling at the time. If things are good, people feel great, property values go up. If things are bad, things are getting depressed, property values go down. And so the higher you go in units, the more sophisticated the buyer, and the more things start to make sense because now things are supported by numbers versus emotions. And so a single family home will be the most expensive piece of real estate that anybody will ever buy because it's based on comparables versus real estate investor focused metrics. And so the more you go up in units, the lower the cost per unit. This is like economy as a scale. The more of something you have in a single transaction, the cheaper it gets. The cheaper the cost per unit, the higher you go in units. Now what happens usually if you start talking to people about 10 units or 15 units or 20 unit buildings, they start to hyperventilate. And they start thinking about all the work and all the maintenance and all the upkeep. But you can own 10 single family homes. You have 10 roofs, 10 furnaces, 10 hot water tanks, 10 driveways, 10 balconies, 10. Or you can buy one 10-unit building with one roof, one driveway. You might have multiple parking spots, but you have one furnace, you have maybe a few hot water tanks that service the entire building. Easier to manage. You have common areas. People are happier, so you get a better a better class of tenant depending on the property that you're buying. And what happens is when you go bigger, the property can actually afford for someone to be either on site or close by looking after that property. And now that relieves you in your time to do other things, invest in other properties, look for other properties, talk to other investors. And so for me, it's always best that if you can level up a little bit. So when someone comes and asks me about a single, or the duplex or the triplex, I said, that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. But have you thought about a fourplex? Have you thought about a fiveplex? Have you thought about a sixplex? Most people, their first reaction is going to be, well, I can't afford it, number one. Number two, well, I can barely, get qualified for this single family home. How in the world am I going to qualify for, a 10-unit building? Not knowing or understanding that the financing for a 10-unit building is actually easier than you trying to personally qualify for a single family home. The single family home is based on your income, your credit, your debt to income ratio, your ability to pay that mortgage, even though you're renting it out. But it's all based on you, the individual. The individual has to personally qualify for that mortgage. When you're buying a 10-unit building, now the lenders are looking at that building as a business. And they no longer need you to personally qualify. They want to qualify the property first. Of course, they will look at you as the owner. They will look at your credit. They will look at your employment, your experience, your net worth. But they're no longer focused on that. The property actually has to qualify on its own. Meaning, can the property carry itself with servicing of the debt? Can this property carry itself? And so that's why the higher you go in units, the easier it becomes for financing, because they no longer have to depend on you and your income. And so you now can qualify for bigger assets. So I always tell people, you know what? Just level up a little bit. You want the single or the 2Z or the 3Z? Try, looking at fourplexes or fiveplexes or sixplexes. Once you get into commercial residential, this is 7 units and above. Okay, it'll be a little bit different, but then it can become easier. And everything at that level, you're dealing with other investors, and logic and reason comes into the game. It becomes easier to finance. You get a lower cost per unit, more profit, plus more profit in the deal to hire other people to take care of the little things that you can't do. So you streamline the maintenance. You reduce the amount of time that you have to invest, the amount of money you have to invest. And for me, the best thing that you could do is try to always think bigger. Just level up just a little bit. If I had to give any advice, it would be just level up a little bit. Try to get out of your comfort zone, and don't make decisions based on where you are. Make decisions based on where you're going.